Welcome to my presentation. It's going to be in English, if you didn't. My Ukrainian is pretty bad. It's called Hyperops, and since we're in Ukraine, I learned that you need to do like that, because it's basically the same, right? And it's mainly going to focus on ops. Cool. So it's going to be about how you can use node modules and peer-to-peer technology to kind of avoid doing ops. So that's cool. And also maybe some other fun things. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, I'm Mathias. I go by Mathias on GitHub and Twitter and all the things. Feel free to ask me questions there, or if you want to talk about code or something. Anything goes, as long as it's in English, not Ukrainian. I work on this cool project called That Data. Super nice because it's a non-profit project, and I basically get paid to do open source every day. So it's kind of nice. I have some fun stats I compiled yesterday. We're 8 people. We're all cool. We're all over the world. That's like me in Denmark, a couple of people in Germany, one in Taiwan, a couple of people in the US, one from the Netherlands. We have a combined module count of 1,500 modules on NPM. And I like to put this stat up here because I publish the most. 500 of those are mine, so that's pretty cool. So 1,500 means that I think there's like 400,000 now on NPM. So if you ever installed like 300 modules, there's probably a chance that one of them is ours. So that's cool. So yeah, you should contribute or star something. I don't know, it's fine. Yeah, also cool fact, we don't have any ops people. We're all just hackers. So does anybody in here actually know what ops means? It's like one of those fancy words that we always use in computers. We have this tendency in computers where we learn a fancy word and then we just use it, and then we kind of like shrug when people don't know it. We're like, you don't know that? Everybody knows that. Basically, this is how I define ops. So when we write apps, we all like to write apps, right? We all write different kinds of apps. Some people write like command line tools. Some people like to write servers. Some people like to write desktop apps. But some portion of these apps we have to deploy somewhere, right? If it's a web server, you kind of want to deploy it somewhere. And when you deploy it, you deploy it out to some hardware somewhere. And I call that servers. So when you have a server, it requires a lot of work, right? Because it doesn't really work if you don't fix a lot of things all the time. So you need to do things like restart an app when it crashes. And I know, your app is not going to crash, but it's probably going to crash anyway. Mine crashes all the time. You got to do boring stuff like save log files, which is also, in case it crashed, it's kind of cool to know why it did it. Also, kind of cool to know what's going on. You probably also want to do stuff like monitoring performance, so actually figuring out that things, just because things are running, it's kind of nice to know that they're actually running, that you don't just have process running that's doing nothing because it's like performing horribly bad or something. All that is like tons of work, and I don't like doing work personally. I like just slacking off. And we basically just call all this work operations. So yeah, that's kind of sad. So how can we get rid of all that, right? So luckily, we can use a bunch of modules from NPM, because there's 400,000 of them, to kind of make all this crap go away and not worry about ops anymore. So my plan is basically just to show you all kinds of cool modules you can use to kind of get rid of all this crap now and just start worrying about writing apps instead, because writing apps is way more fun. So first problem, we have an app and it crashes, right? We want to make sure that it always runs. What kind of things out there can we use to make sure everything is always running? So there's a bunch of stuff out there for this already, and lots of them are like really big and frameworky and like requires you to read all kinds of man pages and stuff. But I found this really cool module recently called PSY or Psy that Substack wrote. That's super cool, and I'd like to show you how that works. Have a cool demo. I just spent like 15 minutes making that thing rotate. So let's see if we can make this work. Whoa. Sorry about that. So I have a server here. I'm gonna make a folder, call it Kyiv. Is that how you spell Kyiv? I think, is there any agreement on how you spell Kyiv?
Yes, K-Y-I-V.
Like that?
No, E-Y. No, but I spell it this way.
Oh, dang.
I-V, that's official.
Like that?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, let's do like that.
I can send an article why. Really, it's an entire article in English for foreigners why it should be like that.
And it sounds like a distributed system where like everybody agrees on what. Cool. So let's say I have a server here, and the server is pretty cool. It's just going to be like console log, hello world. It's not going to be the most useful servers. I'll just open up another tab real quick. So let's save this. I can show off my VI skills. You're probably better at this than I am. I normally just use like a boring editor where it's like, point and click. But when you're on a server, it's kind of cool to use these things. So if I run this server, it just prints out hello world. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool server, right? But we normally do like HTTP stuff. So let's do acquire HTTP and then put it into an actual server. Actually, let's do like this instead, so it like looks cooler. So we have like a server here. Right. So every time there's a request to this, we just wanted to respond with hello world, right? Pretty simple. Everybody's familiar with this, I guess, somehow. If you've done any kind of node, it's kind of like, this is what's cool about Node. I like, you can write an HTTP server in like 5 lines. If you ever try to do it in like Java or something, it's like, not as easy. So I'm just going to listen on some random port. Right. So if we start the server and then load up, it says hello world, right? That's cool. Okay. So, oops. But what if, I do like some mistake here and restart it. It works first time, but next time it doesn't work so great because I get a cool error, right? So that kind of sucks. So what we can do is we can just use this cool PSY module. They should name it something that's easier to pronounce. And do like, oops. Oh, I guess I forgot to install it. We can just install it. Maybe this will take half an hour. Let's know. Oh, that's pretty fast, actually. I'm using some old version of NPM that for some reason requires you to wait like 10 seconds after you install things. I don't know what it's doing. Maybe it's mining some bitcoins or something. Probably be a pretty good business model. There you go. And then it prints out some warnings. Doesn't matter. So you basically just need to do this cool thing where you say start, and then you have to give it a name. I'm going to call it demo server. And then you just give it 2 dashes, and then you just give it a command to run. And then it runs it in the background. So now when I go to this, it says hello world. And if I refresh it, it still says hello world because it's probably crashing a lot in the background. And it says here that it's been running for less than a minute. And we can attach to the logs. I think maybe it's a log. No, doesn't matter. Just gotta remember the log command. Log. Demo server. So basically every time there's a request, it crashes, but it's fine because this program keeps it running, right? It's cool. So now we can just write really shitty code and deploy it. It's fine. My life is now easier. Cool. So you should just all start using that one. I think that's like one of my favorite modules, PSY. Oh yeah, this one is pretty cool. So if you ever like deploy something to your server, you're probably running it behind Nginx or something. I know I am. I really like Nginx. It's cool. It makes my life easy. There's just one annoying thing about it. It has this config file thing that I don't know how to use. It's super advanced. So basically, instead of having to put like port 11111 here, which is like not so cool for your users, I would like to just be able to give it a subdomain and then run it on port 80. And Nginx can do that for me, but I need to write that crazy config file thing I don't want to do. So I ended up writing this cool module that's called Taco Nginx, because tacos are cool. If you ever had a taco, it tastes pretty nice. That you can just install from npm. And what it does is, I'll show you in a bit, but it basically just writes those config files for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Less things to worry about. Let me give you a demo of that. So let's see if I have it installed on this machine. Cool, I already have it. Awesome. So the cool thing about, let's stop this PSY thing so it doesn't interfere. And let's make this stable again. Cool. So the cool thing about Taco Nginx is that the only thing you need to do is you can pork. Instead of listening on a specific port, you just listen on the envvar port. And then, assuming you have Nginx running, instead of doing like this, I'll put it up there. Instead of doing just node server, you just do Taco Nginx in front of it. And then you give it a name, which is the subdomain. So I'm going to call this Kyiv. And it will just set that port variable for you and set up Nginx to forward everything. So now, if I open a tab and go to Kyiv, it will just print out our web service, right? So it's pretty cool. We can just do like one-line deployment with Nginx and everything. So that's pretty nice. I like that a lot. And if I turn this off now and go to the site, I get this cool Nginx error page. But then you can just go and turn it on again. And we'll be back. So that's pretty nice. I like that. It's a cool module. All right. So let's see how we're doing on time. All right. Whew. So okay. So we can like restart apps using modules. We can deploy behind Nginx using modules. That's cool. All in like a couple lines of code. So this one is a fun one. This is my favorite one. So saving logs, right? So let's say this program would print out a line every time, right? Saying which request was being hit. So if you run this again. Oops. So if I refresh this a couple of times, it prints out a slash, and then because it wants to get the fat icon, right? So this is basically server logs, right? You probably all see that. And you probably want to save that to a file. But the annoying thing about saving that to a file is that you want to give this to the file to people so they can like analyze it. So you want to give this to other people on your team. But not everybody knows how to HSH into a server and get it. And also, what if that server disappears and all that stuff? So there's all these crazy solutions out there for this, like Logstash and things, where they're like, oh, you can like take all your things and put it into our thing, and it's only going to cost you $1,000 per month. And it's like super complicated and stuff. So we're like, fuck that. Let's just use some peer-to-peer technology to do it instead. So me and a friend of mine just wrote this cool thing called Hyperpipe, which I'll show you. Not now, in a demo. So it's super cool. So you can just install it from npm using this. And then the only thing it does is that it's a pipe that you can run, and you just give it a command where it should store things. I'm just going to put like temp. Then the only thing you need to do is you run it, and it spits out this cool key that you can copy. And then on another computer, anywhere in the world, you can just run the same command and pass in this key. And then everything you write to the first pipe gets replicated down to the second pipe. It is two different computers, actually. This is like this computer up there is running in Amsterdam, and this one down there is just my own computer. And you can do this on as many computers as you want. So if I run this again, it also gets hello because it has state, remembers the state. And the cool thing is, it's live, so you can just keep writing stuff to it, and it replicates down. And this doesn't require any servers or anything because it's using a peer-to-peer system, basically built on top of a BitTorrent, to basically find the computers and then connect them all in a peer-to-peer network and then replicate the logs to all of them. So you don't need to pay anybody to host your logs. So instead of having to write stuff here, we can now just do cool stuff like do a pipe here and then pipe, Hyperpipe. I'm going to call it Kyiv. And then when we go and visit our website, we get some logs, but the logs are being piped into this Hyperpipe, and then you can just give this key to your other people on your team. And they'll get the logs, right? So then everybody on the team can kind of like live see the logs as things are happening, and we can do like, to show that it's actually working, I can do like hello. And it gets hello down there. So that's pretty cool, I think. Yeah, what's up?
How fast is this for the server? Does it influence the performance?
No, and it's pretty fast. It's kind of like do like. We use it on all our stuff. We also it's basically using a file sharing network behind the scenes that we created for sharing big data sets. I think it peaks out at around a gigabyte per second. So if you're logging more than a gigabyte per second, you might want to do something else. But then I think you have bigger problems.
And that's how these IDs, what server manages to map all these machines together?
So there's no servers. It's all peer-to-peer. So this ID up here is actually a public key that's using a crypto protocol to kind of sign the content coming in. And then the servers just uses the BitTorrent DHT to find each other and then connect to each other directly. And then they replicate all the state out to everybody.
So you just launch this on two machines, and they just find each other peer-to-peer the whole internet?
They find each other, yeah, over the internet, anywhere. And the cool thing is that it's actually encrypted. So only people who has this key can see it, because it's encrypted in traffic. So you can you just need to make sure only to give the key out to people on your team, which is pretty nice.
Looks magical, thanks.
It's super magical. Yeah, so it'll sorry about that. It'll write the file on every all the logs on every server connecting to it, but it can do what we call selective sync. So I can't remember if we documented it. I hope we did. Oh yeah, so it has this cool tail command, for example. So if you only want to replicate like latest logs and not worry about old logs, you can just spin it up with tail. And then, as you can see down here, it's not printing out any of the old logs, right? So if I go down here and say hello world now, it'll only get the newest ones. So that's super nice. I really like that, to not get the old logs. The only thing we're missing on the server is removing old logs. We don't care about that right now, but it's actually not that hard to implement if you wanted to. So that's pretty cool. So that way we can kind of like, both back up our logs to a backup server by just spinning up the same command on another computer. We can also get the logs out to everybody in our team without them having to worry about logging into servers, which is pretty nice. And it doesn't cost anything because it's peer-to-peer. So I really like that. See time, cool. So yeah, as you can see, every log is identified with this cool hex key. And these are cool because this key contains enough information to make the entire transfer secure and encrypted. But it has a problem because they're kind of tricky to remember, right? It's kind of hard to call somebody and be like F5255. And then they get it wrong, and then maybe they get some other people's logs, who knows? Probably not. It's probably like, it's pretty secure. So we did that, and we had the problem, so we were like, you know, fuck that, we'll just write a null module to fix it. And we called it Hypername. We wrote, me and my friend Joshua wrote all this in like one evening, where we were just trying to fix our operation setup. So you should check out the code for all of these. They're all on GitHub. It's all like 100-line modules. Anyways. So you can install, oh yeah, and I have a cool demo of that. So you can install that on npm using the classic install command. And this one is really cool because I think even Joshua wrote a cool help for this. Let's see. Wow, yeah. So it only has these couple commands, but it's basically just a key value store that's distributed where you can insert values and point them to keys. So the only thing you need to do is you need to do Hypername init, and then give it some sort of human-friendly name. And I'm gonna put in Kyiv because Kyiv is pretty friendly. Also, I learned how to spell it now, so that's pretty nice. And then it gives you this one-time key out, and this is the only key you need to distribute to your friends. So what we do is we just have it in our chat. We have like a topic. This is the ops key. So let's try and do that. So you would, sorry. So you would just send this key to your friends over a secure channel and be like Kyiv, and then you pass it in here. Cool. Then on your server, you can just do like Hypername set Kyiv hello world. So like set, and then the name of your thing, and then a key and a value. And then I can do Hypername sync, because I want to synchronize it, and then Kyiv. Oops. And then on my computer, I can do sync Kyiv. And then they'll use the same technique as before to connect to each other over that key, and they'll synchronize the key value store. So it said it pulls one change, so then I can do list Kyiv, and just prints out hello world, right? And again, this is all peer-to-peer again, and you can spin this up on as many computers as you want. The only limitation is that it's only the first computer that can write to the key value store to kind of avoid conflicts. But that's fine for our use cases because we just want to distribute keys. And I can even override these keys and put in like how do you say world in Ukrainian? Yeah, is that tricky? How do you spell that?
Translation of world to Ukrainian, yes.
Dang, maybe this was too complicated.
S-V-I-T.
S-V-I-T. Like that?
No, T.
T?
T.
Sweet? Kind of like sweet. All right, fair enough. Close enough, right? So I can even update keys, and then I can sync them again. And then it says hello, sweet. Oh, cool, picture time. But it's kind of boring to distribute these kind of keys. We all know how to say hello to the world. So instead, we want to replicate these cool logs that we wrote before. So I'm just going to get the key again. So we want to replicate this key instead because this is the hard one to remember, right? So we just do we set a key called a demo, and we set it to our log key here. Because then when we sync it again, now on my computer, instead of having to like remember that crazy key, I can just do get demo, and it spits out the key. right? So now we kind of solved the key distribution by only having to distribute one key, and then we can have as many logs as we want. And then the idea is you can get this out, and then you just pass that to your Hyperpipe. You get the logs out, right? But still a lot of manual steps. So so my friend Joshua was like, let's just modularize that. And then he wrote a new module called HyperTail. We're running out of names. And it's pretty cool because it's actually like a 5-line program, and the only thing it lets you do is they should pass in a name for a hypername, and then a name for a key. I think it's like that. And then maybe it only tails also. Maybe I messed this up. 1 second. Let's try it again. There you go. So then it's basically just allows you to use this cool one-liner instead of having to remember any of the keys once you set it up once. So that's kind of nice. So we use this all the time now. Let's see how we're doing on time. Cool. So yeah, demo. We just did a demo. It's cool. So okay, so final thing. So we got logs now. We got solved distribution, but logs are not that fun. What we want to do is we want to like know what's happening in the logs. That's like actually the important thing. And that means you want to like figure out when there's an error happening. You want to do performance monitoring, like figuring out how long a request takes and stuff like that, right? And you want to do that in real time because real time is awesome. That's why we do Node. So I'm going to just code that using our system. So, oops. Whoa, this kind of. So instead of having the server log out to a console log, I'm just going to use this cool module my friend wrote called Normalcore. That's just the same thing as these Hyperpipes, except it's a module you can use from Node. And you just instantiate that inside your program, and you just give it a name. I'm just going to call it Kyiv, because continue with the theme. And then it has a key, like that hex key, and you just print that out so you can get it out. And then the only thing you need to do is you just write logs to this feed instead, and you do that by using this append method. So I'm just going to write type request, and then URL, reg URL. So this is like just some object, doesn't really matter. Let's see if this actually works. So instead of piping it into Hyperpipe, we'll just spin it up directly now. Whoa. Cool. Oh. Almost. Missing a parentheses. Hardest thing about writing JavaScript. More parentheses. Oh, dang. Let's try now. Oh, more parentheses? Oh, okay, I need to install it also, that's fine. Now we just need to wait 10 minutes. You can see all the cool stuff it's installing, like there's some BitTorrent stuff there, IP, buffer equals. I don't know what this is, probably fine. Tar, there's some tar stuff in there, who knows what that does. This is what I like about writing Node in general, because you get all these breaks. You know that old thing, like, can't work, my code is compiling. Ours is like, can't work, I'm installing stuff from the internet.
Quick question, what's the difference between Psy and Forever? So, Forever also doing some similar stuff.
Psy just does fewer things, which I like.
It's simpler?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to set up, and it's very easy. There's like very few commands in there, so it's kind of hard to mess it up. But you can use whatever you want, as long as it's like a module. Oh, it's almost done now. I know this is like the final step.
For synchronization of all this peer-to-peer stuff, you're using BitTorrent servers, right? You need some kind of server anyway.
Using the BitTorrent DHT, which is like a server, distributed database that contains like 20 million computers.
Okay, so it's everyone can use the BitTorrent API for own needs, right?
Yeah.
It's not only for files.
Yeah. We basically just use their, BitTorrent is a lot of things, but we just use their what's called discovery mechanism. It's basically just a way to find computers, because that's the only thing we need to do. Okay. And if you're interested, I have a cool module. Here it is. It's called Discovery Swarm, which basically just does that, and it has this cool API. Bill is failing for some reason. That's not true. But you can just, it's just a way where you can say, I want to join some topic, and then it just gives you streams to other people in that topic. So pretty simple, and then you just write stuff to that stream. And it's kind of magic, but magic, the good kind of magic, not the bad kind. Cool. So let's see if this works now. Cool. So now we got a key out here, and I think we can even tail this using HyperTail. Let's try that. Whoa, what? Try it again. Something failed. Using the wrong command. I'm an idiot, sorry. Hyperpipe. It's kind of hard sometimes when you're only looking at like a small terminal. There we go. So now we can get all the requests out logged from the application, but we get JSON out instead. It's kind of hard to read because there's no leave lines. So let's just fix that real quick. See if I can remember my parentheses this time. I think this is correct. And then let's just like put.
Second parameter next slash. Your can take several parameters.
Oh yeah, but I want to have it be one line. But yeah, you're right. Totally cool. So if I spin this up again, get a new key because I just renamed it. And then just try it again. Oh, I need to make some requests then. So now we get it out in this cool structured format, which is pretty nice. But then in our command line application, we want to do the same thing. So Normalcore. Just gonna install it here real quick. I have this cool alias. Do you know about the -- cache min hack in npm? So basically, instead of when you install something, instead of installing, if you just do this infinity, it'll actually just do everything offline, which is kind of nice because it's sometimes faster. Except it's not faster right now, so who knows what's going on. There we go. Yeah, it's a little bit faster. So it doesn't download anything from the internet. Then it's all offline, which is nice if you're on an airplane or if you're like bad internet. Cool. So let's call this dashboard. I'm just going to open that up in my editor. I actually have a real editor. This is my computer now. So Normalcore, require that, and then feed. And then the only thing I need to do is pass in this feed from our server. Cool magic string. And then I can do a create read stream. Say I want to be live because we want to have it be real time. And then just console log it real quick, see if that works. So we get it out as these cool buffers. They're not very useful unless you know how to decode hex in your head. You're probably smart. You probably can do it. I can't. I just have to rely on the computer to do it. So now we can actually get this into our program locally, and it's still real time. So if I refresh this, I still get a real time, right? So cool dashboard would be, instead of printing them out, I would just like, let's count how many. So in here I would just be like, just plus plus every time there's one. It's pretty cool. Received. So let's try that. So now it just prints out how many requests there are, and if I go here, refresh it, just get more out. It's pretty cool. We can actually make this a little bit more interesting by saying, let's just say if if reg.ul, if it's not slash, then we say it's an error, right? Because we only support slash in this server. So see if I can remember my VI skills. I can't. I'm just going to copy paste it. I'm a noob. And then say, it's a little bit hard to see here, but just going to say this is, instead of a request, I'm going to say this is an error. If you can read that, kind of truncated. And then, otherwise, I'm just going to call it normal request. So let's try that real quick. So restart this, and then in our program, just let's print out this data again. So now we get, oh, right, because I should do slash. So now, if it's slash, we say it's a request, otherwise we say it's an error. And we want to count the errors because, it's a dashboard. It's a pretty cool thing to do in a dashboard. So I'm going to say errors. So if data type is an error, errors plus plus, else request plus plus. And then just print it out. But like that. Oh, it's Ukraine, so you just do like that, right? Cool. Just learned that. You flip the R's and you don't do colon on the smiley. Just like they should put that on in the airport. Let's try it. Oh, dang. So close. Cool, so if we refresh this now, yeah, and we can just make this a little bit more fancy. I wrote this module recently, that's pretty cool. It's called ANSI div stream. It's basically React for a command line. This is like totally unrelated, but I'm just wasting time now. So what you can do is you can make a stream and see, and then you just pipe that into standard out. And then everything you write to the stream will be diffed between the previous thing you wrote to the stream, and then I'll only output like the diff and update the terminal, which is pretty nice. So I can do like this instead. Then we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. And we want to do that. Oops. And we want to do that. Cool. Totally over-engineering this now, but it's pretty fun. So if I restart this, so we get this cool one-line thing here, and then if I go refresh it, so now we have a cool live updating dashboard. That's all peer-to-peer. So theoretically, let's try it. I mean, let's see if it works. We could take this dashboard. I'm just copying it to my clipboard. And then I can SSH into some other server. Doesn't really matter which one. And go to some random folder. Install Normalcore, which ANSI diff stream. Let's try that. Then wait a couple seconds. It's kind of annoying when you install something because it's all 304s, right? It's basically just saying, oh, everything is fine, but it still takes a lot of time. I guess that's what that yarn thing is better at or something, right? Has anybody used that? Is it any good? Let's see how much time we got left. Oh, almost done. This is my final thing, by the way. I just want to show you that you can actually take the same code and just put it on some other computer and it still magically works because it's distributed.
One more quick question.
Yeah, you can ask all the questions while we're doing this.
Yeah, is it possible to use this peer-to-peer stuff with web browsers without WebRTC?
Yeah. So there's this cool module. This is all based on a module I wrote called Hypercore. It has to be named somewhere with hyper. That's my only requirement. And this actually just exposes this cool API called Replicate. So it's the same interface, but instead of trying to do I/O, like connect to networks and stuff, it just gives you a stream. And if you just pipe the stream to somebody else that has this hypercore, it will magically work. So in a browser, you can just make a stream to somebody, and it can just be a WebSocket stream. There's a module called WebSocket stream that just gives you a stream over WebSockets. And you can just pipe it into this replication stream, and it will magically work. You can also pipe it over a WebRTC stream if you wanted to, or you can pipe it over whatever you want.
It's extremely useful because WebRTC is not supported in Safari Mobile.
Yeah.
And in Safari, is that what prevents me to migrate my apps from WebSockets to WebRTC. Yeah,
WebRTC is also kind of janky sometimes. So if you actually have stuff on a server, what you usually do when you're running a server, WebSockets perform much nicer. Cool. So let's try and just run this board. Just copy paste it. So this is on another computer, and it still works. I forgot where this is. So let's do like, can we do that? Would that work? So final thing. So this one down here is my computer. This all on there is some random computer, and then we have our server running, and it's all live updated. And actually, it all forms a peer-to-peer network. So like my computer is connecting to this other random computer, and they're probably also connecting to the source, and they're all helping each other distribute the logs. So even if I do stuff like turn off the server, so now the server is turned off, I can still run the dashboard because it just replicates from this other person down here, right? So you can even still analyze your logs even though everything is turned off, which is kind of nice. Yeah, cool. I think I'm out of time. Don't have any more time, so let's just skip that one. I have so many demos, I can keep doing this all day. Thanks.